found them.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Clay Ranger 143 here, along with
Thunderbuddy 01. Who's
And-
behind the camera right now because I don't want to be.
and in this last episode of Radio Reviews for now, with the both of us here, we're going to review yet another rare RadioShack weather radio that was made back in the golden days, if you will. And that would be the RadioShack 12-258.
I already started recording.
All right, so a little overview on the 258. This radio came out, according to the sticker, in 2003. And this radio was very revolutionary for its time. It had a similar BIOS, or I guess you could say BIOS, but let's use another term for that, firmware, as the 12-255, which I already reviewed over there. Has a similar sounding siren. Well, actually, it's the same siren, but a bit slower, which we'll demonstrate in a minute. Same button beeps, similar screen, similar setup, similar set of warning lights as well. The only difference is between the 255 and the 258, the backlights are different. This one has a green backlight. The 255 has a blue backlight.
Or if you're like me and have my 255, it doesn't have a backlight
because it's broken.
Yeah.
So, in this episode, we're going to do the usual and go into this radio's cool quirks and weird features and give it an evaluation at the end of this video. So, let's go ahead and get into the first feature, and that would be the button beeps and the siren test. So, the button beeps. Let's get to that first. Let me mute my phone for a second.
As you can tell, this has two different types of button beeps.
Invalid and valid.
Yeah.
Just like the 255, because if we go over to where that is, see, same set of button beeps, both types. 258 has it, although that radio was made in 2001. This was made 2 years later, but they kept the button beeps on this. Now for the siren test. And on this radio, you can actually do the default siren test. But if I turn it off and turn it back on, holding down the weather button, you get access to both sirens. You get the user setup. So the down arrow is for the default siren. And the up arrow is for the test siren, or statement siren.
Technically, it's the statement siren. I noticed the siren for that one's a bit lower pitched.
Yeah.
Well, the one in the user setup is a bit higher pitched compared to the actual siren, but
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I think I have a sound file of the 255 siren on my computer. Let me go ahead and look into that real quick.
Alright.
Okay, there we go. It's loaded. EAS stuff. Weather radio tones. 1255. Here it is. This is what the beep sounds like. It sounds like that on the test, but it sounds like this in real life for tests. Actually, a little bit lower. Is that what it sounds like?
Roughly,
Sounds
yeah.
like it. I actually heard it in person, so yeah. It's a fairly simple siren. The test siren does sound different than the
And the one in the user setup.
yeah. But if I exit out of this and just turn it back on, because we don't want to actually reset the whole radio. So, let's get into the next feature, and that would be the backlight. Alright, the backlight, as you can clearly see, it's a green backlight.
Pretty green!
Pretty green like the statement light. So, this radio's backlight is very effective. It reminds me of the 12-261 and the 260, which shouldn't have a damn screen to begin with! But,
It should.
no it shouldn't.
Yes, it should.
No it shouldn't.
Yes.
No.
Thought.
You're the thought. But anyways, as you can see, you can pretty much see everything on here. It does not fatigue your eyes as much as most weather radios do. It's very clear. I mean, keep in mind, this radio is 16 years old. Well, actually, yeah, just over 16 years old. 16 and 4 months old, because this was made in April of 03. But the backlight really does make an effective turn for this radio. I think you cannot turn the backlight off.
You cannot.
It's permanent. You gotta stick with it. I will say, if I turn off these light bulbs or LEDs on the desks, so if we can go here, if it's dark enough, you can see that it is very bright and effective still. That's a good sign. It means it's not dimming, so I'm just going to turn that back on. And we're going to get into the next feature, and that would be the build quality.
Build quality. So, I'd say it's a pretty decent radio for being in the early 2000s. It's definitely held up pretty well over the course of 16 years, and I'm highly positive it'll retain its build quality as time goes on.
Yeah, I'm sure it will too.
And yeah, there might be a few I think no, that's not a dent. There might be a few nicks here and there, but that's just from use. And
Yeah.
And also, if you know me pretty well, I usually bring all my radios to my grandparents' house. So sometimes they'll bump into each other when traveling.
Yeah, that's true. Then again, at least it doesn't break the whole radio.
Yeah. Unlike, I don't know. This one. Or the other First Alert radio, which Michael over here had for a short while, then broke.
On the fucking day I got it, yeah, the WX260 shit.
268, but yeah. So, personally, the build quality on this is definitely superb for how old it is. I'd say it's probably on par with the 255.
Yeah, it probably is.
So, yeah, so with that being said, let's go to the next feature, which is reception. Crap, the leg's not too good.
Here, I got it.
Thank you. So, reception. So, obviously, this being an older radio, it might have some reception issues, but given the build quality of this, I'm sure it'll justify it.
So if we go on manual and select, that's WXL56 in Asheville.
KHC 27 in Rock Hill. WNG 538 from Grandmother Mountain.
And near Linville.
WXL 70 on Spencer Mountain.
And Randlow near Charlotte. Nothing on Channel 5.
KJY 85 from Roseville.
Thursday night, mostly cloudy. Lows around 70. Friday, partly sunny.
Absolutely nothing on Channel 7.
Columbia.
So the ones that can get the most are Channels 2, 3, and 4.
94 degrees. The official national 70s. Chance of rain 50%.
So the reception is pretty good for the most part, but it's pretty much like half and half.
Yeah.
On some of the channels.
And the speaker quality, I could also say, is pretty decent.
Yeah.
So.
By the way, should we get into that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. We're getting into the speaker quality now that Nicholas mentioned it. So let's go ahead and press the weather button.
40%. The Charlotte, North Carolina climate summary for this evening as of 4:30 p.m., August 9th, 2019. Today's high temperature of 95 degrees occurred at 3:32 p.m. The record high is 104 degrees, which was set in 2007. Today's low temperature of 68 occurred at 5:38 a.m. The record low is 56 degrees, which was set in 2002. No precipitation fell today, which leaves the monthly total at 2.14 inches. The total precipitation for the year still stands at 33.09 inches. Sunset tonight is at 8:19 p.m. Sunrise tomorrow is at 6:39 a.m. This is the NOAA Weather Radio, all hazards, KHC 27, broadcasting from the SCE-TV tower near Rock Hill, South Carolina, operating on a frequency of 162.425 megahertz. This transmitter is serving Rock Hill and the Charlotte metropolitan area and the surrounding Piedmont of the Carolinas. The current time is 5:27 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
So the speaker quality is definitely decent. It sounds almost as decent as the 12-261.
And the 255 as well.
The 255 has a slightly bigger speaker because of the way it's designed, but this has a smaller speaker. I think this speaker, actually, if I put it up to the sunlight, yeah, it's almost about as small as the 261 speaker, actually.
Yeah.
If not the same size.
Right. So with that being said, let's get into the next feature, which is the alert blocking. So, alert blocking, which is pretty much standard on most of the radios today. So if I go over here to tone defeat, you can select from warning, watch, statement, and test. Warnings.
There isn't that many warnings that you can select.
Yeah. Amber alert,
Amber alert's set on warning.
Yeah, that's because of how old this radio is.
That just shows you how old it is. Like, if you find a weather radio that has child abduction emergency as warning instead of advisory, or even watch like on the older 100s and 300s, I think.
Yeah.
That's how old it is.
Watch.
You see an avalanche watch, coastal flood watch, flash flood watch, high wind watch, hurricane watch, severe thunderstorm watch, tropical storm watch, volcano watch, which doesn't even exist, winter storm watch, and that's it. But with the
hello, I hit statement, which actually says statement, unlike the freaking 261.
that one says statement.
Flash flood statement.
Flood statement, hurricane statement, severe weather statement, special weather statement, unknown statement,
Tune
Tune
TV.
TV. Oh,
That's it. And
now for test. All test, demo message, weekly test, monthly test, and all test. But this radio can disable or enable certain types of alerts. Like, for example, let me go ahead and disable volcano warning temporarily. If I press the right arrow and turn that off, Press the right arrow again. That alert is now disabled and it will not activate for it. Let's try avalanche warning now. If I turn that one off, it is now off. Blizzard warnings, coastal flood warnings. I live nowhere near the coast, so let's turn those off. Dust storm warnings, we can turn those off.
We're not in Arizona.
Yeah.
Unlike the Arizona hyena, which still needs to get a spark. I mean, what?
Exactly. And also denies everything. But this radio, if you don't want it to go off for certain alerts and only for the ones that you care about, you can do that with this radio.
Alright, so we covered reception, we covered the... Oh, I know what else we could talk about. So, one of the flaws of this radio. As you can see, it says signal loss. The lights aren't flashing.
And look at the signal. I guess it got proven wrong. Hang on.
Thunderstorms in the afternoon. High chance of rain 40.
Now it's not fucking working?
Cloudy. Showers and thunderstorms until at 94 miles an hour.
Let's do this.
The extended forecast for the listening area.
Here, delete that.
Chance of rain.
Actually, hang on.
Chance of precipitation
I know a way
20%.
I know a way to do it.
Monday, partly cloudy. Lows in the mid-70s.
And now after a while, there we go. So, that's one of the problems I've noticed with this 258. It'll sometimes the screen will say signal lost, but the lights won't flash. And, okay, we can't get those counties.
No, we can't.
But yeah, I've also noticed this with when I'm self-activating this for alerts. Like sometimes the screen will actually freeze up, kind of like the recoms.
Yeah.
But I've noticed that the screen will freeze up at times, and when it's doing the signal loss thing, like it was just doing earlier, it's just like not that beneficial.
No, not really.
Like it'll say signal loss, and you won't be able to see it. Like let's say if you're sitting somewhere and you can't see the screen. And you won't know if it says signal loss unless it's flashing those lights down there.
No, not really. And let's say those lights burn out from age or something. How are you gonna know?
Yeah.
Because look, if I tilt the phone real quick, you can see the screen from up top, but if you look down, you can barely see it. So that is another flaw, especially with the display.
Yeah. So yeah. With that being said, let's talk about something that you don't really find that often with the with these radios, and that would be the, if I could flip open this flap here. Thank you.
All right, I got it.
The ability to set this radio up with a computer.
So this is already a very rare feature that we are discussing. Once in a lifetime feature that we have never discussed before. This radio, no joke, can actually be connected to a personal computer. But it has to be a Windows PC. Unfortunately, we don't have the cable or a computer old enough to test out this particular era of hardware. So that's where we got the manual on this website, manualsbrain.com. I searched up the RadioShack 12-258's manual, and here is the specifications, if I can borrow this real quick. So, let me take the my charge out of the pocket, too, if I can reach it. All right.
I got it.
Thank you. Okay, so, as we can see here, I'm just going to read it off here. Computer system requirements. If you want to use your computer to program your weather radio to view to view weather alert messages, be sure your computer is an IBM PC with at least a Pentium 100 MHz processor or compatible, running Windows 98 2nd Edition, Windows 2000, Windows Millennium Edition, or Windows XP.
I think you actually have a Windows
I have
XP.
an XP machine. I thought it was only 98, 2000 NME. I didn't know XP could work. So maybe if we found the cable with this thing, if they only had it, I could have plugged it into the computer and see how it worked. But then again, we don't have a CD.
Yeah, you need the CD in order to
Yeah,
set
this radio actually came with a setup CD. But we don't have that, unfortunately. But I'm going to find a picture of it. I'm trying to. Anyways, and having all the following, at least 16 megabytes of RAM, a standard VGA card, a CD-ROM drive, a USB port, obviously.
I think there's a...
Note, the Weather Radio's computer connectivity feature works with Windows 98 2nd Edition or later only. To use the Weather Radio's computer connectivity feature with Windows 2000, you must download and install the Microsoft Update Service Pack for Windows 2000. The Weather Radio does not work with Macintosh computers. It's a Mac. What do you expect? It's a Mac. Now I'm going to try and find a picture of the CD. So let me go to images.
And all we see is 262s and 521s.
Mm-hmm. Oh wait, I found a picture. Okay. Apparently that is what it came with, and that's what the CD looked like. There's the 258 itself along with the adapter. And here is the manual and the CD, but no cable. But this thing did come with it. And here is the box for it, which also it didn't come with, did it?
Did not.
And here's what it says. PC interface on the front. Certified USB, or Universal Serial Bus. Oh man, that is so nostalgic, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. Unfortunately, we are unable to test it out due to not having a cable. The cable does look familiar, I must say. It does look familiar. It just looks like a, if I can focus here. It looks like a regular serial cable, which shouldn't be too hard to find. But you need a USB on the other end. But I guess that's why this radio is bent in shape like that. If I could autofocus, that would be fucking nice. There we go. So, that is an excellent feature, though, I must say. Very revolutionary, especially for RadioShack. They were going all out with this. But the last feature that I'm about to discuss is not so great. Now, this is something that really needs to be spoken about. This is just bullshit. Just like the RadioShack 12-260, with no same activation, yet it has a screen. Well, here is the total opposite! Yes, it has a screen. Good. It has same activation. Good. But there's no alarm clock.
Or a clock in general.
No clock. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is what you get when you deal with RadioShack's backwards logic from the 2000s!
And you just spat all over my phone.
Mainly on my right hand, which is what I'm holding it with. And that's what she said. But, anyways. Why the fuck would you make a radio that has no clock in general? That's just stupid! They literally pulled the same shit with the 260, with it having no same activation, yet it has a screen. But here, with the 258, they have a screen, but there's no clock! But at least it has same activation. I'll give it that. At least it has same activation. But still, there's no damn clock in the fucking radio!
Hey, don't drop it. I paid $20 for that thing.
It's still working, isn't it?
Yeah, but we all know what you did with your 268, and I don't want you to do that.
That's because that piece of shit didn't even work when I first got it. It didn't! So I had every right to destroy that brick of shit.
Well, you could have used it for parts.
What parts? You can barely find those bricks anyway, and they're already defective as it is. I'm surprised yours has lasted this long.
Well, maybe it's because I'm the big Steve.
Yeah, you are the big Steve. But I don't understand why RadioShack would just have a screen on it but have no alarm clock or a clock in general. If you're going to have a screen, at least have a clock like most radios do. Like, seriously, RadioShack. I'm tired of dealing with your backwards logic here!
So, final thoughts on this radio. it can be glitchy at times, like it is right now. And yeah, it doesn't really have a clock. But then again, RadioShack probably thought in the 2000s, oh, people have computers and watches like this. Look,
So the Apple Watch didn't even exist yet.
right, but you know what I meant. And
Yeah.
they also probably thought that some people might have iPods too, because those were released around the same time frame.
The iPod was released originally in 2001, along with Mac OS 10.
Yeah. So yeah, they probably thought, people have personal computers. They probably don't even need a clock to set up this radio. And as old-fashioned as it is, if I could grab it, even though RadioShack can be a bit, interesting at times, like with their somewhat glitchy interface, with the radio spelling, and I just realized something. When I got this radio, it didn't come with a wall mount.
It can also be wall mounted, but it didn't come with that.
Yeah. Maybe I could just stick some nails up here and nah.
No.
But yeah, it is an interesting radio. I would recommend it if you're a collector, or even if you're just looking to get a radio in general. Like
Plus, if you see one of these and if you're interested in grabbing rare weather radios online, if you see one of these, get it.
Definitely.
Just like how I did with my 255.
Yeah. And with my 255, even though I was getting my balls busted about that, but then again, I'm going to be going to college soon.
Mm-hmm.
Which, oh shoot, yeah, I am going to be going to college soon. Look at the date.
You go in on August 23rd.
Yeah, 23rd. I don't know if you can really see the calendar up there, but yeah. 2 weeks from today is my move-in day.
Oh shit, you're right. Time sure flies.
Yeah. And yeah, well, while high school was fun and while summer vacation is fun, I can probably, well, based on what I heard, I heard college is like 10 times better.
Yeah, because the smartest people go there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, with that being said, this concludes this episode of Radio Reviews. Be sure to slap that like button, hit and subscribe, hit that notification bell, and also be sure to subscribe to my channel and support my Patreon. Link in the description below.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said,
and also subscribe to my channel as well, since this is what's being posted on.
I think I was implying that earlier, but yeah.
Maybe.
So with that being said, this concludes this episode of Radio Reviews. This is Thunderbody 01 signing out, along with...
For the final time with him this year on Radio Reviews, Clay Ranger 143.
And see ya.